Good morning and welcome to Friday. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group in our brand new time slot in Colorado. Phoenix, you are unaffected. We're going to be in the same spot we've always been. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And I feel like, maybe the gold and silver gods are smiling upon us today with our scheduled change. Gold is broken out, silver has broken out. Gold's up 22, make it $23 now, 18.32. Silver up $1. Wow. Well, you know what? That's how it is. We talk about pulling on that rubber band thing. It finally snapped. Silver now almost $25 to the ounce. And I'm happy to announce I'm joined today, and I'm going to be joined all the days for, well, at least the foreseeable future with my partner, good friend, fellow contributor to everything that we're doing at Patriot and the radio station, Jason Walker's with us. Jason, good morning, man. What a morning.
Yeah, you said you had rain yesterday morning. It seems like we always get your weather the next day. There's a little rain this morning here in Colorado. So you're my weather forecaster, Joe, because every time you talk about the weather, I know that's what I got tomorrow coming.
Yeah, well, apparently, we knew about, that hurricane in, that devastated New Orleans. There was another hurricane actually coming up, the Baja coast, and that's where all that rain came from. The other day, which is heading your way. So here's the good news, though. The sun is out today. The weather, anyway, at least what I've seen, low 100s here in the Valley of the Sun, and that's actually pretty good. The one thing that's been weird this year, it's rained a lot here, a lot of humidity, too, which makes it a little bit sticky out there.
Yeah, that same thing with Colorado. We're pretty dry right here in the Front Range. And there's other parts of Colorado that aren't quite as dry, but yeah, the plains out here are kind of a desert plains, and it's not quite as dry as where you're at, but we get dry stuff out here. That's why people like to come here. They don't have that humidity. People hate that humidity. They leave the East Coast and the South, and they come here to Colorado or Arizona, and they can handle 100 degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a totally different atmosphere. 103 degrees here is nowhere close as hot as 103 in Texas or Florida, New York, or any of those other places. You guys are listening to the Patriot Radio News Hour. This is our new time slot in Colorado. Phoenix time slot is unchanged. Then Jason and I, we're going to do 2 more hours of radio after this. Ryan is working on the schedule as we speak. It'll be up before the end of the day at 1360khnc.com. We got a lot of changes in the works. It's going to make the radio station even better. We're super excited about it. And apparently the gold and silver markets are excited about it as well. We have the jobs numbers out today. I've been telling you, I've been telling you this number was going to be bad from the jobs number from last month. Just because the government and the Federal Reserve, they never want to tell us the actual number. So they always got to seasonally adjust it. They always got to manipulate the data. And the way they do it, last month's number was over-manipulated to the plus side. This number wasn't. It was a big, big miss, though. Even probably bigger than I thought it was going to be. They were looking for 750,000 jobs, and then this morning they lowered it to 720,000 jobs created in the month of August. The number came in at 273,000. So, I mean, Jason, that's not even in the ballpark. Why don't these people just call me?
That's the kind of numbers.
I'll help them.
That's the kind of numbers you're on a football team, you get cut.
Right. I mean, come on. I mean, anybody out there, what's so funny is there was a bunch of people out there that were still calling for like 1 million jobs. And I really am scratching my head saying, what are these people? What data are these people possibly looking at? But yeah, it was a big, big miss to the downside. But that wasn't, that was bad. Okay, let's face it, that was bad. But now people are saying, Well, now the Fed doesn't have to taper, and of course they don't want to taper.
They can't.
But the other data that came out today, Jason, and I'm just watching while gold has gone nuts now, up 25. Silver's now up $1 and change. But the other data, ISM survey data came out as well. It doesn't make the headlines, but let me tell you, the stagflation in that report was off the charts. And then Walmart, they made a major announcement today as well, Jason. Listen, they can't pay people enough. People are not going to work for $7.25 an hour. They're not going to work for $9 an hour, $10 an hour, $11 an hour, $12, $15. Walmart announcing effective September 25th, 565,000 employees are going to receive a raise of at least $1 an hour, and they said a lot of their departments are going to be paid even more than that. But of course, again, Jason, it's not enough.
Well, and the prices on the shelves, the prices on the shelves will go up $2 an hour.
Well, that's exactly what's going to happen again. But this is the whole nonsensical, transitory thing. You better buckle up. Listen, stagflation is coming. The economy is slowing down because the government, hey, when we stop giving everybody a check, things are going to get slower. But then again, is this going to be leverage for the Democrats to spend even more money? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592 yesterday afternoon. You never, when you're in business for 25 years, when you have office locations, we got an office here in Arizona, we got an office in Colorado, you never know who's going to walk in the door. You just don't know. Yesterday, I had 2,000 silver rounds walk through my door here in Phoenix. Jason ran them last night on their show yesterday afternoon. And Jason, I'm sorry, and I know I should have had, it was 580 a roll, right? 580 roll.
Is that where we're staying? Because
silver has gone up $1.
Right.
But you know how we like to do it here. We want to give you the best price and the best products possible. Once again, we are the cheapest in the country. We've got 100 rolls of silver rounds. And let me tell you right now, these aren't, these old beat-up rounds, like they used to have, remember, Jason, like the Prospector rounds. Yep. And all of those they're all toned and worn out. These rounds are fresh. They were in the. They come in when they make cases of rounds. They put them in these cardboard boxes, and they're in their original boxes. We've got a magnitude of different designs. I think we got 3 or 4 different designs. We've got a St. Gaudens design. We've got a Morgan design. We've got a Sunshine Mint design. I mean, all kinds of cool ones. Buffalo. We've got a bunch of them, but these things are brand new. And just to kind of give you an idea, you're at $29 an ounce. Silver's bumping up on $25. That's only $4 spread. That is the cheapest spread on silver we've seen since before the pandemic. I mean, really, and Jason will tell you this, silver prices, silver supply really started having problems in January of 2020.
Yeah.
Before COVID got here.
That's right.
And premiums have stretched out and have gone parabolic. When you think about like U.S. Silver Eagles right now, they're $35.50. So this is, you're $6.50 below a Silver Eagle. You're never going to make that premium up. This is by far the best buy in silver probably in a year and a half. We got 100 rolls of rounds, silver rounds. They're live in Phoenix. They will be on their way to Colorado. Jason will have them probably before the end of next week. So they're going to be available quickly. They're $580 a roll at 800-951-0592. Gold and silver breaking out this morning as the jobs number was nowhere close to the 750,000 they were expecting. Of course, I told you that from day one. I've been telling you that for a month now. But now this is, when you think about chart stuff, Jason, right, these are key levels where all of a sudden all the shorts got to cover and go long, and that's why you're seeing this snap back. I expect gold and silver to continue to rally throughout the rest of the year, because here's what I think. The Fed is going to delay tapering as long as possible. They don't even want to taper. They have no intentions of fighting this inflation. But I do believe before the end of the year, inflation is going to be so great that they're going to be forced to taper. But I think you're going to see this pattern's emerging now, Jason, where we've got the economy slowing and inflation rising. Everybody is raising pay. Everybody's raising pay. We had the founder of Home Depot, Ken Langone, out there saying, what the heck is the Fed thinking? This isn't transitory at all. And I think they're going to have to start the taper. But I think it's going to be late in the year, and it's going to be too little too late, Jason.
Well, and let me say this. The Fed is they kind of like hide the truth behind white lies. they tell you what they're going to do, but it's not really the way they say they're going to do it. So when they said transitory, Joe, you've been hearing this word from the Fed, transitory, under their numbers. Because if you look at the century of the 2000s, if you look at it, real inflation is about 9% a year, pretty much every year. And transitory with inflation, Joe, what they're saying is, well, we got our little 2% that we talk about all the time. Well, we're not going to have that. And whatever transitory is, it's going to be raising the price of everything, and then it'll stop, and the prices aren't going to come down. Then they'll go back to their 2%. Their idea is they're going to, try to inflate us out of an emergency that's getting ready to happen. I got this article I'm going to talk about, Joe, which kind of it goes right along with what you're saying. This guy predicted in April 16th, 2020, there's an article I'll talk about. But
and let's get into it, because this is something where if you want to look, you can put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Right.
The problem is because of the gaslighting and everybody's turned into a quote-unquote stock investor, and now they've even got the millennials and the kids in it. I've got an 18-year-old, and now, by the way, I missed it. Thankfully, I told him happy birthday the other day. It was my son's birthday, my oldest son's birthday yesterday. I wished him a happy birthday the day before, so I covered my bases there. But they took they got money, right, from the government. And they took that money and they've been buying stock and thinking that they're these great stock traders and valuations are blown up because they really don't know the truth. What they know is just what they see on the Idiot Box or what's that site where they all are on there, WeChat or whatever it may be. I forget the name of it.
Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, they're all following all of that stuff. But if you look under the covers, you can see where this is headed. And there was an article Jason's talking about. This was in Barron's, wasn't it, last year?
Yeah, check this out. So this is April 16th, 2020. It's in Forbes.
My bad, Forbes.
And it's written by Nathaniel Baker. So the reason I brought this to Joe, and as soon as Joe, he had his oh crap meter hit as soon as I talked about this. This article is about a guy named David Hunter. David Hunter is the chief macro strategist at Contrarian Macro Advisors. This is April 16th. This is when everything was crashing. March and April last year with the COVID crash, right? And it stopped. As fast as it crashed, it stopped and started coming back. But this is right in the heat of it, when a lot of people thought maybe it was still going down. This guy said he saw exactly what was going to happen. Here's what he said. There's a melt-up that's going to happen into the year 2022, 2 years from the article. It will end up with a 1929 market crash of 80%. It was also that he also voiced this on the Contrarian Investor podcast, if you could find it. He couldn't predict the COVID-19 that came and shocked the markets last year. Nobody really saw that when these things happen. But he said the 2020 sell-off that we saw in March and April is the setup of a melt-up that will be starting now, meaning April of 2020. Stimulus is the main factor in inflation. And he says the S&P. If you look at these numbers, Joe, and the S&P in April of this year was 2,500. Now the S&P is around 4,500. So you're seeing a melt up. That's almost 100% on the S&P. Not even a year. So in about 2 years, he said, when this melt-up happens, this crash will happen. He said the S&P will go down to 800. It'll be the biggest bear market since 1929. It will happen fast. From peak market to bottom will be less than 6 months. He says inflation will return this year, which it has, and will continue to happen until this melt-up crash of the markets. He said inflation will come out of its multi-decades hibernation. And remember, this is 2020, Joe. There was no inflation in April and March of 2020. The inflation wasn't here.
And that's the key. This is something where, again, when you start thinking about how this guy put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? He said, hey, listen, I couldn't predict COVID. But I sure as heck can predict the massive response that the central bank and our government did. And it's amazing when you think about how many trillions they pumped into this economy, and it was just giveaways, right?
Yep.
How could we have not, using COVID as an excuse, gotten infrastructure done? Just as an example, right? Hey, we got COVID out there. Let's spend a bunch of money. Let's get our roads and our bridges done. They didn't do that. No, instead, what did they do? They bailed out Wall Street.
Yep.
Right? And then they started sending consumer checks and don't pay your rent and don't pay your student loans and don't do this and don't do that and don't go to work. And all of that, that's really garbage spending. Right? It all as it does is create what we knew what was going to come. And this guy accurately predicted, listen, we're going to have massive inflation.
Right. He goes on, Joe, to say, and this is what he's predicting later in 2022, with this inflation moving into next year, it will be the first inflationary recovery since the 70s. It will exceed the one that ended with 20% inflation in 80 and 81. 2 years from when he spoke this. I mean, he was timing it, which his timing is eerily close.
He says next year. So
next year,
2020, he predicted by 2022 that I'm assuming the central bank is going to be forced to fight this inflation.
Yep. The transitory will go where they want it to go, Joe, and then bang, interest rates may go to 25%. That's what he's basically saying.
That guy's wrong. Can I say this right now? I pray that he's not right.
But if he is right, then the S&P at 800,
that would be
S&P at 800 is very possible under that situation, Joe, at 25%.
Well, without a doubt, let's face it. We know from a dollar perspective, we've never spent this kind of money before. We've never increased the money supply like this before. We've never had to deal with the amount of debt that we've piled on. Because you got to remember, listen, interest rates have essentially been zero by and large. For what, the last 13, 14 years?
Yep, since the beginning of Barack Obama.
I mean, and really when you think about that, we've added, when you add the Fed's balance sheet to the equation, and not counting all the other central banks, we've added almost $30 trillion of debt during that time. You know, because the national debt, when Obama got it, was about $10 trillion. Now we're getting ready to cross $30 trillion, plus the Fed's balance sheet. They've got almost $10 trillion on that balance sheet.
Yep.
So when you sit there and you say, okay, listen, I'm just going to go back. The crash that we saw, you know, after fighting the inflation in the 70s. You go back to the crash of 1929, right? You go back to the tech crash. You go back to the financial crisis crash. And then you make assumptions about all this stuff that we've done. And it makes sense that this would be the worst of them all. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592. Silver rounds are lead. I had the wrong price online. I just corrected it. I apologize. It was early this morning. We got silver rounds. We're the best price out there. $580 a roll. We had 100 rolls to start the show. They're going quick.
And Joe, let me say something about that price, Joe. That price is so cheap. You could probably take those rolls and resell them to your friends or you guys that work, you know, the guys at your job. That's what I used to do when I was on my own. If I got something that was super cheap like that, it's like, yeah, I could probably sell these for $600 a roll. I'll pick up an extra 4 or 5 rolls and pawn them off to my family and some of my coworkers. And
it happens. You know, listen, was it luck? Sure, right? I mean, the guy sold them to me yesterday. Silver goes up $1.
Silver goes up $1.
I mean, you know, and I'm gonna and I try to do this when we can. Right? If I can ignore the price, I'll ignore it. The big thing, though, especially for gold and silver, because it's been a frustrating summer, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Gold and silver not moving, not reacting. They've done a great job keeping it under wraps. But this is the breakout, you know, that they've been waiting for. And again, this is just kind of the end of the story for the Federal Reserve.
Well,
right?
Joe, look what's happened this year. You've got property going up. You got the stock market going up. You got Bitcoin going up. You got lumber going up. You got the whole world thinking they can just throw money at anything.
It's not just that. We got sports memorabilia going up. We got Pokemon cards going up. I mean, your housing prices going up. Rent's going up. I mean, there's almost nothing not going up.
And then gold's just kind of sitting there flat the whole time. What do you think those big guys up in high places are buying right now? Why do you think they're taking gold from countries and and not letting them have their gold back? The smart players are buying it.
Right. Think about 1 month ago when, hey, I got a dog just walked into the studio here. Hi, pups. You never know what's going to happen. Live live radio. A month ago, remember, they hammered gold overnight, remember?
Yep.
They knocked gold down $100. Silver's almost $3, not quite $3 higher than it was at the low of that day. Silver was down to $16.70 for a few minutes. In less than 30 days later, now we're talking about, hey, gold's breaking out $18.30 and rising because the lies, and you know, whether you want to call them white lies or the mischaracterization of the data or whatever you want to say that it is turning out to be false. And again, I've said it just like I told you on that day. Get ready for a terrible jobs report 30 days later. Am I Nostradamus? No. But I know how to look at actual data. I know what's real and what isn't. And when you do that, it's just like the guy that wrote that article in Forbes over a year ago. saying, let me tell you what's really going to happen here.
And let me add to that real quick, Joe. That David Hunter that made these predictions. Let's just do a number right now that sort of says maybe this guy's onto it, where there might be a huge market crash next year. Have you seen the Buffett indicator? The market right now is at 238% over GDP. It's the highest it's ever been. Highest ever.
Yeah, what Jason's talking about, we're talking about valuations. So everybody's got their favorite valuation. There's one actually called the Buffett valuation, which is how Warren Buffett goes about determining whether or not he wants to go out and buy companies. Because that's really what Warren Buffett does, right? He takes other people's money and he goes out there and he uses his metrics to see whether or not it's a good buy. And there's a reason why Warren Buffett hasn't bought any companies. He hasn't bought anybody. And the thing that Jason's pointing out is his metrics of how he values these companies. They've never been more overvalued ever.
Ever.
And Warren Buffett's been around a long time. So more overvalued than the 87 crash. More overvalued than the dot-com crash. More overvalued than the financial crisis. You know, so you think about what we're talking about, and it really doesn't matter what valuation metrics you use. You know, whether you use current valuations, the CAPE valuation, Case-Shiller valuations, price to earnings valuation. Buffett likes to use that GDP valuation. All of them are flashing either past their previous all-time highs. I think there's, Jason, there's about 120 of them. There are still one or two that are just below their all-time highs.
Yeah,
That's it.
One is the S&P 500 PE ratio. It's at the levels of the dot-com crash level, moving towards the housing crash. So it's not at its top, but it's in between the dot-com crash and the housing crash. That's where the S&P 500 PE ratio is at.
Wow. I know, like the CAPE valuation, it's already past the 29 crash. And it's only one left for that one is the dot-com one. And it's right next to it, 43 to 39 on that one. I think those are the only two.
Yep. I mean, I'm not much of a numbers guy, Joe, because I'm on your show, so I'm going to try to do more numbers. I'll start going back into numbers because I think it's all false and fake. It's all phony. I don't really do a lot of numbers on our afternoon show, and so I think it's information light. I'm more of looking at the social situation around the markets. But I can look at numbers just like anybody else. I know where to go.
Yeah,
look at numbers.
And you know what, though, when you're sitting there trying to decide, okay, what do I believe? Because, you know, you go home and you're looking at your 401k balance, and you're like, oh, hey, it's moving. Look at it. It's finally I'm starting to get some money in it. Right? And so you want to believe, right? You go out and you see, listen, when you see all these now hiring signs, it's not a great thing for your paper investments, for Wall Street. That's not a positive, especially with what we're seeing now, because they can't get people to work. They can't get them to work. And we said it earlier. Listen, $15 isn't enough.
Well,
when's the last time you heard Walmart? We're going to raise everybody's pay by $1 an hour starting in 3 weeks.
I have a feeling when the rent forgiveness comes to an end, there's going to be a lot of people looking for jobs, Joe.
Well, and again, you're going to also see, unfortunately, people don't understand that rent forgiveness, what's going to happen. Rents are going even higher. All of these people are going to get kicked out, and they got to find another place to live. Rents are going to go much higher because of it. The exact opposite of what you think. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Inflation. The destruction of confidence in fiat currency's purchasing power. Really, isn't that Isn't that a great way of saying what it really is? What does inflation really mean? It really is, hey, all that money you're printing, all that money you're creating out of thin air, it's not worth what it used to be. You know, it's always been a great example. Eric used to talk about the Romans and the denarius. And back in the older times, you know, the minting wasn't as sophisticated. So when they were minting their gold denariuses, there wasn't any reeds. It wasn't a perfect circle. And what the Romans were doing in order to fund what their expansion and their military and their roads and their bridges and all the social stuff that they were trying to do, they started clipping the coin. They would just shave a little bit off of the denarius. And then pretty soon, the vendors that were out there selling the bread and selling the produce, they would charge 2 denarius for a loaf of bread. And then the guy, they would hand them the 2, and one was clearly smaller than the other one. And they're like, well, wait a minute. Now I want 3. Because I don't know if I'm going to get a big one or a small one, right? And this is exactly what's playing out here, just a little differently. Instead of, it's not like your dollar bills are getting shaved off and all of a sudden, hey, this $20 bill I have is a little bit smaller than my other $20 bill.
It works exactly the same, Joe. It works exactly the same.
But right? It's the same premise, which is, hey, guess what? I no longer can accept $15,000 for a new car. I need $45,000, right? I can't work anymore for $10 an hour. I need 20, right? The work hasn't changed. This hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the amount of money created out of thin air. It's not backed by anything. We talked about it yesterday. Full faith and credit, right? Do you actually believe that the United States government can make good on all of this debt? And I don't think there's anybody out there, Jason, that will say yes to that.
No. Yeah.
Now, they'll say yes to is, oh, well, no, they won't default because they'll just keep printing the money.
Right.
Right? I don't think they can actually pay it off, but they've got a printing press, which just means what? It's just going to get worse and worse and worse until the central bank says, okay, we're going to stop printing the money.
Here's your comparison, Joe. Your comparison to the denarius with just the $100 bills. You got anybody that spends cash. You got the over $100 bills. They have the really old ones with the small president, but then you have the greenish looking ones. And
the shrunken head president.
Yeah. Now we have the blue ones. In between, we got the bigger one with the kind of more of a greenish look. Now you got the blue hundreds. The blue hundreds essentially destroyed the value of the green ones, Joe. It's the same thing. It's funny to think, but those older $100 bills bought you more stuff, and the blue ones came in and destroyed the value of those older ones. It's exactly the same.
That's such a great point. I remember the first time I saw a $100 bill. I probably was 7 or 8 years old, and my dad was part of this Optimist Club in Syracuse, and they did a lot of charity work for disadvantaged youth and stuff like that. And they held this poker event, and it was the first time I'd ever seen, and it was the shrunken head $100 bills. And I just remember thinking when I saw it, wow. And I won't say the guy's name, but Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Smuckatelli, man, he's rich. He's got a $100 bill.
Look at the 3 digits on that paper.
Right. and now today, does anybody do a $100 bill? No one even bats an eye.
You could barely get through a dinner at a restaurant with that.
Listen, you can't go grocery shopping at Walmart with a $100 bill. You can't do it. It's amazing the devaluation that's but I guess my biggest worry is, when going back to that article from Forbes, because it's really scary how accurate he's been about what was coming.
Yep. Yeah, the
But
timing.
he says in this article, almost like deflation, massive deflation is coming to the markets in 2022
After the melt-up.
Because the Fed is going to have to take away the punch bowl.
Yep.
And that punch bowl is so big, to Jason's point, hey, taking interest rates to 1% isn't going to fix it. Taking it to 5% is not going to fix it, right? This is going to be a shock to the financial system that the world has never seen. And it makes sense because the amount of reckless money creation that they've gone through has got to be eradicated.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's going to be an attempted inflationary recovery, which I think will fail. And then we'll have the IMF come in and be the new guy in the block, and the Fed will be destroyed. That could be possibly where we're headed.
Wow. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. We've got one line open right now. The lead pipe stone cold lock of the week. I mean, I had no idea this was going to be it. Yesterday, we had 2,000 silver rounds walk through the door, and we come in this morning, silver's up almost $1 an ounce right now, bumping up on $25 here. Gold's up 20, but rolls of silver rounds at $5.80 a roll. It's the cheapest anywhere out there. You're thinking about you're barely paying over $4 an ounce, and who knows, by the end of the day, maybe under $4 an ounce for silver. We haven't seen that in over a year and a half. It's just huge value when you compare it to where U.S. Silver Eagles are. I mean, you're talking about paying $6.50 less an ounce.
Yep.
That's huge value. It's even cheaper than utility silver, junk silver. That's in the low $30 an ounce range, $31, $32 an ounce range. So picking up silver rounds here
through Joe, is this through Labor Day? Are we going to go all the way through the?
Well, it depends. So we're taking orders all day today. We had 100 rolls when we started. We got a lot less than that. So
might not make it that far.
If we're getting close to being out, if we run out, I will, because I have it online as well right now. If we start to run out, the price will go back up.
Check out fake
otherwise,
news.
I will try to do it through Labor Day.
Check Fake News Friday at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. We have the 2-hour version of Fake News Friday. If we have any available, we'll push them on that show until they're out.
We'll update it then, yeah. But we shouldn't, because that's how good of a buy this is. This has got, if you're saying to me, what should I buy today, this is it. Especially if you're a silver guy. 800-951-0592, but we'll keep it at that price for as long as we can. And then after that, we're probably going to be, my guess is we'll probably be somewhere around $31 to the ounce, something like that. Again, silver's up 92 cents right now, $24.80, $24.82. Silver, gold's up 21 right now, $18.31. The Dow's so funny. The overvalued, overinflated debt bubble stock market, it's only down 90 points right now after the jobs number with that huge miss.
Oh, boy.
800-951-0592. Coming up next, our new show, The Half-Empty Cup of Joe with Joe and Jason. That's going to premiere. Our premiere show will be today, and that's going to be replacing the Front Range News Hour. We're super excited about it. We're going to take you in all kinds of different directions But one of the things I do like, Jason, we've got Glenn Tate is going to be our guest today. Is that right?
Yeah, Jack should be checking to see if he's if Glenn Tate is on.
So hopefully we're going to have Glenn Tate, because you think about what's happening in Lake Tahoe right now with the wildfires. You think about what just happened in New Orleans. Of course, Glenn Tate, one of the premier guys when it comes to prepping. We're going to be great to get his take and little things that you can do that in the case of that an emergency does happen, you can be a lot more prepared than anybody else. God bless everybody. Buy those rounds. We'll be back on Tuesday. Everyone, we're closed. The station's closed. Patriot's closed for the Labor Day holiday on Monday. God bless everybody. Spend time with that family. We'll be back Tuesday.